Hey guys, Richard Miller here from Miller Type Foundry, and basically I created this video as a little tutorial how to use Opentype features in Adobe Illustrator. And the reason I created this video is because I've been a professional typography designer for about 10 years now, and one thing I create in a lot of my fonts is Opentype features, and it takes up a lot of my time to create these Opentype features. And as I'm creating them, I'm always wondering, are people really using these? Are people really, do they even know how to access these features? Am I just wasting a bunch of time creating these Opentype features? So, I wanted to create this video. Basically, like I said, it's a tutorial just to kind of show, how to access Opentype features in Illustrator, how to utilize them. And, hopefully this can be a big help to you as a designer. Or, if you're not a designer, you're just watching this video just because you use Illustrator for some reason, or you're just into typography, hopefully this video can benefit you as well, so you can try to sort of see really the capabilities of the fonts that you have and what can really be done with fonts out there. So without any further ado, we'll get started. The first Opentype feature that I want to go over is Oldstyle Figures. These are traditional figures right here that we think of where, figures, or not, basically the numbers are the same height as the cap height, as an uppercase letter. And, that's what numbers normally are like. But, where this runs into problems is, body copy. Whenever you've got body copy like this, and you've got maybe a date over here, or maybe you've got, this number here, and, because all of these numbers are, like I said, the same height as the cap height, they really stick out like a sore thumb. They almost are, it's almost like you typed out something in all caps, for emphasis. Like if you wanted to type something out in all caps that would stick out on purpose, that's basically what these are like. But, if you don't want your numbers to stick out on purpose, that's where Oldstyle Figures come in. And you can see down here, basically Oldstyle Figures are where each number is a different height. Some are the X height or similar to the X height. Some are actually dropped below the baseline and have a descender. Some have an ascender and are above, all the way up to the cap height. And basically, the point of these Oldstyle figures is to blend in with the numbers better. So, to blend in with the text better, with all the regular letters. And, this is a font that I created. This is Gilman Sans. And basically, to access these Opentype figures, you go to Window, and then go to Type, and then Opentype. And this will bring up your Opentype palette. And basically, under Figure, there's the default figure. Scroll down here to Proportional Oldstyle, and that's where you get these. And here's the beauty of Opentype, is that you don't need two completely different fonts. If you're in Illustrator, you can just click on, if I want to switch between these figures, I just click down here, go to Proportional Oldstyle, and then boom, now I'm here, and I can just switch back and forth between the two of them without having to change fonts, without having to use two different fonts. It really makes things easier. So here's another font that I designed, Uniform. This is Uniform Medium, and you can see here, like I said, the number, it really sticks out like a sore thumb. Really draws attention to this date here, to this number here, and maybe you don't want to do that. So like I said, go to the default figure, click Proportional Oldstyle, and then boom, now you've got a number that kind of blends in with this text better. Now for Uniform here, I'll admit these are not technically traditional Oldstyle figures because, traditional Oldstyle figures, like I said, each number is a different height. These are kind of all the same. But because Uniform is a very geometric typeface, I thought that having, the different heights just wouldn't look as cool. So I made them all the same height. But, they are, like I said, they are a little bit smaller than the default so that they do blend in better with body copy. So that's Oldstyle Figures. Moving on, we've got Tabular Figures. Now, the purpose of Tabular Figures is that, let's say I've got, two numbers typed here. Let's say I'm creating like a chart or a table, which is, where the name Tabular Figures comes from. Let's say I've got this table, and, believe it or not, these two streams of numbers are the same number of digits. But as you can see, this one appears to be a full digit extra because with proportional numbers, the the width of the number 1 is much less than, say, the width of the number 9 or the number 8, because it has to do with the white space that would be created around that number. Or, you know, the number 7 is also much thinner. So basically, let's say you've got this problem. Well, you highlight this, and then same thing, Opentype, Pallet, go to Figure, but then instead of the default figure, don't click on Proportional Oldstyle, click on Tabular Lining, and boom, all of a sudden, all of the digits line up. And you can see the design has changed a little bit. You know, before, when it was in the default, you know, this 1 does not have the little bar serif on the bottom, but you know, I added that basically so that it would kind of handle the white space, you know, more effectively, so there wouldn't be too much white space. But basically here, like I said, these numbers are all lining up perfectly. You know, you can use this in a chart, you can use this in the table, and it doesn't matter what character you have typed in here. You know, they're all going to be the same width, no matter what number it is. Every single character is going to be the same width, so that will basically help you out there. And you know, it's perfect. Like I said, they line up perfectly for a table, chart, or anything. So that's Tabular Figures. Moving on, we got Numerators or Superscript, and basically, you know, there is a cheat way to create numerator numbers, and that's basically, let's say you want to create a numerator, and you know, you highlight your number, and you know, you just make it smaller, and then try to make it kind of line up with the cap height. But the problem you're running into here is, if you notice, these numbers here look significantly thinner than, you know, the letters. See how, you know, this looks like this is Tactic Sans, and this is the medium weight, and this almost looks like it's like a thin or a regular weight. Just doesn't match well with these numbers, with the with the rest of the characters. So let's undo all that. So basically, the point of numerators is, I'll highlight this and go to Opentype and go to Position Numerator. Now all of a sudden, these numbers have been, you know, I personally tweaked them and increased the stroke weight to basically allow them to flow perfectly with the rest of all the numbers, with the rest of all the characters, you know, the traditional characters. And it doesn't matter what weight, you know, you're picking, whether it's a thin or it's the black, regular, you know, they basically are meant to flow well with these, with, you know, the rest of the characters. And you know, so that's basically the point of that. And well, one thing that, you know, for instance, for Tactic Sans that I added was, let's say you wanted, you know, you're doing an advertisement and you want to have this price typed out, but this looks kind of boring, it's traditional. So let's say you go here, default position, numerator. However, I also added numerators for a lot of the currency symbols. So default position, numerator, and now all of a sudden you've got, you know, this price that looks kind of cool, because this looks more dynamic than just having the price typed out. But like I said, all of these characters blend in seamlessly. For instance, if I try to recreate this just by shrinking these numbers, you know, it's going to look kind of scrimpy and scraggly. Just 1 second. Let's just type this out. And so as you can see, if you compare the two, this is where I just basically cheat the system and just shrink these characters down. See how they don't flow well? They don't match at all with the rest of the characters. They just look thin and scrimpy. But here, like I said, because these have been, you know, designed on purpose to fit with the rest of the characters, they flow perfectly and they work. They look great together. So that's one of a huge benefit of numerators or Superscript. So moving on, we got fractions here. And you know, let's say you're designing a cookbook. Let's say you want to put in the recipe calls for 6.5 cups of sugar. And you type it out like this, but you know, this is kind of ugly. This is kind of bulky, having it like here. So if we highlight these and go into the Opentype panel, and then in the bottom right hand corner there's this little fraction thing. You click on that, and boom, it instantly converts it to a fraction. And you know, this looks way more attractive. This is you know, going to look a lot better in your design. And the beauty of it too is that you know, you can edit this. So let's say instead of 1/2, we want to make it, let's say we want to make it some crazy thing, you know, 5/6, you know, some crazy fraction that you know, you're not gonna have a character for in any font. And basically these will flow, like I said, these blend in with all of the rest of the characters. It doesn't matter what weight you're putting it in, they fit perfectly, they look great, and they're super easy to access. You know, you just, like I said, you just click here and click on this little fraction tab in your Opentype panel. So that's fractions, pretty simple there. Moving on, alternates. Now, alternates is a big reason why a lot of designers create fonts with Opentype features, because of the alternates. You know, let's say maybe I've got this, this is uniform bold here. So I've got this 2-story A because I thought it looked cool, but you know, this is kind of a geometric font. So let's say I want to also create a single-story A, in case somebody, you know, a designer wants to really use that single-story A and make this look extra geometric for whatever design they're creating. Well, the way you achieve that is I basically designed alternate characters, and the way you get to the alternate characters is you go to Opentype, and then there's this little AA symbol down here for stylistic alternates, and you click on that, and boom, it instantly swaps out any character that has a stylistic alternate, because this is basically programmed into the font through Opentype, and it swaps out the character. And you know, it's very easy to toggle back and forth between these two. Any character that doesn't have an alternate, for instance, the E is just the E or the T, are the same, you know, it doesn't affect those. But any character that does have a stylistic alternate programmed in, it's going to, you know, swap that out. So that's super useful. This is Tactic Sans Black, and this is another font that I created stylistic alternates for. So that's basically the regular, all the default characters. But then go here to Opentype, click stylistic alternates, and then boom, all of a sudden I've got this alternate A that's, you know, not diagonal. I've got the I with the serifs on it. I've got this R where the leg of the R is vertical as opposed to diagonal. And here you can really see the beauty of the stylistic alternates, about how you know, these two fonts kind of look almost like two different typefaces. Just changing a few different characters can really make the font have a completely different feel, but you know, you can really make something stick out or be different all within the same font. So that's super useful. That's stylistic alternates. And then lastly, we'll get into ligatures. And basically ligatures are characters that have been designed that basically swap out when two letters or characters are right next to each other. So for instance, in this one you see, and this is Gilman Sans. This is a font I designed many years ago. And you know, when the F has this big overhang, but when it's next to a character like O, you know, it works, not a big deal. When it's next to A, it's fine. But if you put it next to I, like in the word fight, all of a sudden this overhang crashes into the the dot of the I. It looks really ugly. It looks really awkward. So basically, to turn on ligatures, there again, you're in your Opentype panel, and in the bottom left-hand corner, this little FI is your ligature icon. You click on that, and boom, it swaps out the two separate characters for this special character that, you know, me as the designer, I specifically designed, and you know, it swaps that out. So that's very useful. That's how you access these. Another way to utilize that was in here. This is Uniform Condensed Bold, and I designed this so that basically, you know, when you've got the R next to the T, you know, it creates this huge white space, and you know, it's really a kind of an eyesore, draws your attention to this ugly chunk of white. And I basically designed it so that if you go to ligature, you turn this on, boom, it deletes the little part of the bar here. Since the R is almost crashing into it, you know, your mind's not really going to even notice that. It's kind of like an optical illusion, and you know, it doesn't completely get rid of the white space, but at least reduces it significantly, so it's you know, less ugly. And you know, that's another way that I've utilized ligatures. And then here's an even better way, another feature that ligatures can be used for. So here I've got, let's say you wanted to create a list and there's checkboxes. Maybe you're designing, I don't know, a ballot or just something where people are checking things off. And, one way to achieve these checkboxes, maybe you could have a completely separate font, kind of like a wingdings for your font as alternate style. But the problem with that is that, then as a designer, to try to find the checkbox, you just type in A, B, C, D, E, F, and on, trying to find which character is the checkbox. And that can be kind of annoying. I've been there where I'm just typing it out, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then, finally find the checkbox, and then a week later want to reuse it, and boom, I forgot where the checkbox was. I forgot that the checkbox was the lowercase q, so now I gotta type A, B, C, D, all over again. So with these, basically, these are actually ligatures. These checkboxes within, this is Tactic Sans Bold, and if I take the ligatures off, you can see what's going on here. These are actually just the left and the right bracket typed out, but when ligatures are turned on, it automatically becomes this checkbox here. So you can see, you type the left bracket, you type the right bracket, and boom, it automatically substitutes into this checkbox. And then, but you say, oh, I want a checkbox that's already filled in. Well, I thought of that. You add in this plus symbol and then make the right bracket, and boom, now it's a checkbox that's filled in. If I delete that, or if I delete the plus symbol in the middle, it goes back to the checkbox, and maybe you want a circular checkbox, so you just type the left right parentheses and you've got a circular checkbox. Type the plus symbol to color it in. Or let's say you're doing something for the military and you want to create a star. Well, you've got your scientific checkbox, and boom, your scientific brackets, and type those together. You got a star. Let's say you want a filled in star, put the plus in the middle, and boom, now you can create stars super quickly. And that's one way to utilize ligatures. Like I said, that's kind of a little doodad that a little wrinkle that I added to this font, to Tactic Sans. And and that's a way that you can utilize ligatures. Like I said, the way you get to them, you're in your Opentype panel, and then down here in the bottom left hand corner, you just click on that and it gives you your ligatures. And so that's the Opentype features that I want to cover here. One more thing that I wanted to cover is your Glyphs palette. Maybe you're aware of this, maybe not. So let's say you wanted to access these characters, but you weren't aware of this ligature thing. Well, if you go to Window, and you go to Type, and you go to Glyphs, and it'll basically pull up for you every single character that is in this font. So if you say, I just want to insert the star, boom, you can just double click on it and it inserts it for you. I want to insert, for instance, Tactic Sans got Cyrillic characters. I want to insert some Cyrillic characters because I don't know how to type them out when I have an American keyboard. Boom, you can insert some Cyrillic characters. So this is a way that, any character or any glyph that's on the entire font, you can access it through here. Pretty useful. A lot of stuff like this I was not taught when I was formally trained as a graphic designer. Kind of had to just figure it out on my own. So, hopefully that can help you out there. Here's one of the most useful ways that this is. Let's say you're trying to type out someone's height, and they're 6'2", and you go to type it out in Illustrator, and you want to type the vertical quote marks, and Illustrator keeps defaulting it. It keeps defaulting it to these right quote marks, and that's not what you want. You want the vertical quote marks, but you can't. Every time you go to type it, it just defaults it. Well, if you just highlight these and then you go in your Glyphs palette, find the right vertical quote marks, and then boom, that's one way to get the right thing that you want. So, hopefully you learned something here. Hopefully now you're able to utilize a lot of the Opentype features. Like I said, you just go up to Window, Type, Opentype. It'll open your Opentype panel here, and any font that you have that's an Opentype font, you can kind of see what type of little doodads and what Opentype features they have here. Like I said, I hope this video helped you out, And if you have any questions, leave a comment. And you know, catch me again in the next video where I plan on doing Opentype features for Adobe InDesign. All right, bye.